Hi class, as I have shared with you in the past, I believe that the best teachers are always learning themselves too. So this week I wanted to try something new in this class based on the feedback that I have received from my amazing mentors. So this week, instead of a traditional welcome announcement that I usually do, I wanted to try to provide such welcome by using a video recorded particularly for this class. So let's start by looking at some of the most common themes from the last week's assignments. And last week we did complete exam 2 and practical 2, and overall the outcome is that excellent work on the exam 2. Most of you were right on the mark when it comes to addressing both more straightforward recollection and then more advanced application-based questions. The only specific question that I think that we really need to focus on is your extra credit short answer essay. In it, you were asked to kind of reflect on a scenario of a soldier passing out during a military parade. And what was probably the most common reason why a student did not earn full marks for their answer was that they missed on addressing one or more aspects of this question. So my advice would be for you to always read the question prompt carefully and answer all parts of it. I would also encourage you to explore whether there is one central concept that relates to the chapter material that you may have been able to identify from the prompt. Like in this scenario, it would have been Venus return. And finally, one of the things that I have shared with you in the past as a way to really play on those heartstrings of mine as your grader is to try to find some personal connection with the topic. Maybe you have once passed out and connecting what you learned in the class to making sense of why that might have happened, or maybe you have seen someone passing out and then reflecting on what you saw as signs and symptoms leading to it. And when it came to the practical exam that you took, I have a few pointers to share there too. When we get to structures that tend to be paired ones in the body, like let's say blood vessels that we have one on the right and one on the left side of the body, then it is that the details matters. So always start with what is easy points to cover. Make sure to identify blood vessel, whether it's an artery or a vein. And here remember that while arteries typically carried oxygenated and veins carried deoxygenated blood, this was reversed in pulmonary circulation. And make sure to tell as much detail as possible as well. For example, for an axial artery, because there are two of those, one on the left and one on the right-hand side, you would also have to tell me which side of the body we're talking about. And again, remember that it is in relation to the patient's sides, not yours. Many of you did very well on practical, and I would say as a general observation that those of you who may have struggled a little were usually students who have missed much of our class time together. What I think that this shows is the importance of being present in the classroom, as while I provide a lot of material to study outside the class, it is in the classroom where you will be able to pick up on those nuances of what is important and what is perhaps not quite as crucial. So that is a reflection on last week's content. Overall, very good job on it. Since we are now at the halfway point of the semester, I was thinking of what is to come during the second part of the course. And I think that this formula that you see here really kind of summarizes it well. So what we see here is cellular respiration. We take sugars, glucose in this case, and oxygen, and convert it into ATP, which then drives cellular processes. And as a byproduct, we make carbon dioxide and water. And remember that this is what happens on the cell level. Almost every single cell does that. So in the coming weeks, we will look at how to get sugars in our body. So this will be our digestive system, how we bring nutrients and energy into our digestive system, how we break the material in it to smaller components, how these smaller components can be taken into the body, and how those are captured and transported and eventually used in the body. And we will also look at how to eliminate some of these waste products from our body. In a few weeks' time, our focus will be on hydrogen. And this is eliminated largely with our urinary system. And this week's focus will be on oxygen and carbon dioxide. So how to get oxygen in the body and into the cells in the body. And then how to get carbon dioxide not just out of those cells, but out of the entire body as well. So our focus will be on the respiratory system. And if we think about this and connect it to this formula that you see on the screen, what we see is really that this happens on a much smaller scale, on a cell level. So because all of your cells do kind of quote unquote breathe, that is why you need to get oxygen and CO2 into and out of the body as well at large. And I really like this listing on this slide as it shows us the anatomical structures that we will cover regarding respiratory system. So kind of serving as an outline of a kind of what we should discuss about. And once we have mastered the anatomy, we can focus on physiology. We will first start with our 4 phases of respiration. Then we will talk about the process of breathing in and out, seeing that breathing in is an active process, while breathing out is largely passive. We will also explore spirometry, first noting how we measure different respiratory volumes and what they are, and then how based on those we can calculate respiratory capacities, which were really the useful part for us in a clinical sense when we make decisions about the patient's lung function. And we will then move on to look at how gases are exchanged at 2 different levels, between the alveoli, at the lungs and the pulmonary capillaries, and between systemic capillaries and tissues. This will bring us to explore concepts like partial pressures and pressure gradients that drive the direction in which these gases will be moving to. We will also talk about, in reality, how these gases are transported in blood. And finally, we will wrap up the week by talking about the neural regulation of the respiratory system. So quite a plan for this week, and it sounds good to me. And I also wanted to highlight the weekly assignments that I'm asking you to do this week. So the format will follow largely what you are used to. We will complete a quiz and a practice anatomy on our publisher's learning platform, and that was Connect. So quiz is going to be a collection of mixed type questions, including multiple choice, drag and drop, ordering, true, false, and so on and so on. And as before, the practice anatomy gives you a chance to look at pictures of structures and learn them through that process. And finally, as usual, we have a lab activity to do this week. We will do that as typical in a class together, but you still need to submit a completed worksheet of it to the Canvas assignments. All of these I ask you to submit by the end of the week at the very latest. So assignments close 1 minute before the midnight on Sunday. And as always, the reason for why doing these assignments is so important, not just for the learning process, but it is that they count towards your final grade for this course. So we really want to be collecting those points towards it. So that's it from me. It promises to be a busy, interesting, but also fun week ahead of us. I look forward to continuing to learn with you. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you for being part of this class. Thank you for your continued great work. Let's make it another great week.